All right, I'm going to have you state your name, age, and ethnicity.
Christy, 57, Filipino American.
All right. All right, so I'm going to give you some background information about gender roles, and then we're going to get on with it. So, according to PlannedParenthood.com, gender roles in society means how we are expected to act, speak, dress, and groom ourselves, conducted based upon our assigned sex. And every society, ethnic group, and culture has different gender roles and expectations. So the 4 basic kinds of gender stereotypes are personality traits, domestic behaviors, occupations, and physical appearance. So knowing that, I just wanted to ask you some questions. So how old were you when you knew you were a girl?
5 years old.
5 years old. Okay. And I'm going to also give you the definition of gender according to Merriam-Webster. So it's the state of being male or female, which is typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. Okay. So according to this definition, how did you learn what gender you were, and how did you know you were a girl?
Girls wore pretty little frilly dresses, and boys wore jeans and shirts.
Okay. And you knew that pretty much just from the way you were dressed as a child?
The way I was dressed as a child, from my brothers and sisters and my neighbors.
All right. So, also I'm going to ask, what was some experiences you remember growing up that were gender-based, that specifically pertained to you being a girl?
That were gender-based. Girls would play with our Barbies. We would have our dolls and our Barbies, our easy bake ovens. Things were pretty much things that were geared towards girls, whereas boys, they had guns. They would play cowboys and Indians back then, and they had trucks and things like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's good to know. And how might have you challenged those gendered ideals as you got older?
As I got older, I started to want to try to do the same things as a boy, which you didn't want to do back then because they would call you a tomboy. Mm-hmm. And that was almost kind of like a derogatory term back then. But being a tomboy means that you could keep up with the boys and do what they did, which was like climbing trees. Mm-hmm. And I remember one thing that I really liked doing that my brothers would do is they would get a roll of caps for their guns, and they don't have those anymore, but we would take rocks and smash them on the caps and make them like kind of, it was a little
Popping,
mini pop. Yeah. And I wanted to do that too, but they would tell me, no, you can't do that because you're a girl. So the most exciting thing I could do was get to do some of the things that the boys got to do.
That's good. And who was your role model or idol growing up?
The whole time growing up, or?
Just one that really sticks out to you.
Well, when I was growing up, well, I always Barbie. I wanted to be like my Barbie doll. She had cute clothes, and she was long and skinny, and she was kind of the ideal of what we wanted to be when we grew up.
Yeah. And then what was the first time you felt the pressure of being a girl or a woman? And can you tell me more about that experience?
Stop it for a sec. I gotta think. The pressure of being a girl or a woman.
The first time you felt like you had to either be a certain way or act a certain way or perform a certain way as a woman or a girl.
And definitely in elementary school. One of the things we would do is we would play kickball, which was a game. It was almost like baseball, but with a rubber ball that you kicked. And I always wanted to be, I was very competitive, so I always wanted to win. And I always played really, really hard. And that meant, kind of like sliding on my knees and, throwing the ball as hard as I could at another person. And I remember getting this, that's not ladylike. That's not, you don't want to do that from the school proctors, the playground proctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever remember, like, when you were getting older, maybe some pressures of growing up as, you know, a girl?
Definitely you wanted to always look nice. I remember trying makeup for the first time when I was in like 7th grade. You wanted to look nice at school. You wanted to be pretty. You wanted to be one of the popular girls.
Yeah. All right. And then, so I'm actually asking you, what is your sexual orientation? And is it the same or different as you were taught as a child?
It's the same.
Are you hetero?
Hetero.
Okay. And how did you learn who you should be attracted to?
Oh, definitely from television. You know, growing up and, you know, all of the television shows, they were always geared towards, you know, if there was a young romance, it was always a young man and a young woman. You certainly didn't see any other, you know, sexual orientations on television. Not until there was a show called Soap, but that didn't come in until late 70s, early 80s, and I was already grown.
All right. And how do you think gender roles might have shaped your personality? Do you think certain characteristics of your personality shined and others were diminished as you became older?
Oh, yeah. It shaped my personality in that I find, I kind of like, one of the things I say is you can capture more flies with honey than vinegar. And the whole meaning of that is if you're ladylike, soft-spoken, and, you know, feminine, you can get what you want. And sometimes you play it. That might not necessarily be what I be, but I play that role to get what I want, whether it's, you know, to get a man to help me with my car, or if it's during my work and I'm trying to negotiate a deal, I try to be more soft-spoken, but still at the end get what I want. So,
what is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
I'm smart and intelligent, and frankly, I'm self-sufficient. I don't need a man.
Yes, that's very good. Have you ever felt like you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? Tell me about that experience.
Absolutely. I think when you're a man, people in the workforce, people tend to think of you as more reliable, more responsible, whereas if you're a woman, they look at you and they think you're going to be more emotional. They think that you're going to be, you know, taking time off for the kids. And so a lot of companies, I think they tend to look to hire men more so than women because they think they'll get more out of a man for their money than they would a woman.
You are right. And this is just a yes or no question. Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
Yes.
All right. Tell me about a time you felt unsafe being a woman. Did that experience shape the way you handle yourself in certain situations?
Like such as sexual harassment in the workplace?
I'm just a time you felt unsafe at being a woman in any certain situation. And did it shape the way you handle yourself in that situation moving forward?
Oh, yeah. I've always felt kind of like unsafe, like, I know this is going to sound like in a parking garage.
Oh, yeah. No, that's very common.
Where I feel that a man can come up and overpower me. So when I walk through, or at night, walking to my car, I walk with my keys between my fingers. I walk fast. I don't let anything distract me. I get into the car. I look into the car, front seat and back seat, to make sure no one's there. And I get in right away and I lock the doors.
Yeah, I do the
Whereas
same thing.
I don't think a man would
have to worry about that.
Or have to worry about that. But as a woman, I'm very well aware that, you know, in a lot of instances, a man can overpower me.
All right.
Physically.
No, that's definitely very true. And so our last question is going to be, so now that you've learned a little bit about gender and maybe realized some things, since you already have children, what is one thing you would have changed about raising your kids, about gender?
About gender, I would not have made comments in front of my daughters, such as, I'm fat, I don't look good, I don't like the way I look, or disparaging my looks or how I look, because I think that colors how she looks. Of course, I don't think a man does that as much in front of their kids. And I think that's part of the pressure of being a woman. You're expected to look good and to be a certain weight and to be a certain look and to act a certain way. And I wish, I thought by not saying those things to my daughter it'd be okay, but I never realized that she was picking up on those things when I would say them about myself.
Thank you so much for giving me your time, and I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, I just want to say thank you for interviewing with me. I'm going to have you state your name, age, and ethnicity.
I am Jess. I'm 24 and Caucasian.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, Jess. So I'm going to give you some background information before we start. So according to the dictionary, gender is defined as the state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. I'm also going to give you a little bit of background about gender roles. So according to PlannedParenthood.com, gender roles in society means how we're expected to act, speak, dress, and groom ourselves, conduct ourselves based upon our assigned sex. For every society, ethnic group, and culture, different gender roles are differ. And the four basic kind of gender stereotypes. First one is personality traits. Second is domestic behavior. Third is occupations. And the fourth is physical appearance. All right. So now that we got a little bit of background on that, let's get into the questions. So how old were you when you first knew you were a girl?
I don't know, when I was in like kindergarten, I guess. I don't know, we really just started talking about it.
Yeah, right? Exactly. No one knows. It just comes about. But so how did you know you were a girl, different from boys, I guess?
Well, I have an older brother.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, my mom was telling the story about how my older brother would always be like, well, where's her thingy?
Oh.
And then it was like, oh, well, she doesn't have one. She's a girl.
Yes.
So it's kind of that way.
Did you ever, any, specific things, like maybe the way you were dressed or how you acted?
I don't know. I guess my mom dressed me in flowers and dresses, but when I was old enough to, start making my own choices, then
it wasn't the case.
It was not the case. My mom was like, okay, cool. She doesn't want to wear flower dresses, so
yeah.
She didn't make me.
That's nice. What are some experiences you remember growing up that were gender-based?
Some experiences that were gender-based?
So that, particularly pertain to you being a girl?
I don't know. I think that the earliest one I can remember was helping my mom in the kitchen while the boys got to do yard work, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right. And so I know we were talking about this earlier. So how might have you challenged those ideals as you got older?
Oh, as I got older? Well, I grew up and I was more like, Dad, can I help you go fix a car?
Oh,
and
nice.
He was like, yeah, come on out. And so I kind of asked to do it, and then it was just kind of accepted by my family. Like, okay, yeah, you don't want to be inside doing
That's
stuff?
cool that they're very open with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so who was your role model or idol growing up? Who did you model your behavior after?
I think there were two specific people, mainly my mom and my older brother. Mainly because my older brother is who I looked up to. He's 3 years older than me, so he has some experience. And he's still one of my best friends to this day. And so he kind of, I don't know, modeled stuff for me. But then my mom as well, because she just is such a strong woman and wasn't afraid to be that.
I think that's cool too that you had a mix of both, male and female people to model yourself after. Maybe that's probably why you're not as so strict on one thing. That's awesome. And so what was the first time you felt the pressure of being a girl or a woman, and can you tell me a little bit more about that experience?
What do you mean by pressure?
Pressure from society to look a certain way, to act a certain way, to... There's so much pressure put on girls at such a young age. I mean, there's got to be something that sticks out.
I think when I was in like the 3rd grade, I went to a slumber party or something, and I hated wearing like, I always like wearing shorts like when I go swimming, and it was a swimming party, and so I wore the shorts, and they're like, well, that girls aren't supposed to wear like board shorts.
Yes.
And so it was kind of like, what do you mean? Because
yeah,
it was
you didn't
always
understand
something that I had done. So I think at that point I was just like, oh, okay, and I just kind of felt a little awkward.
Yeah.
But I guess that.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely when girls first experience that, it's something that definitely helps shape you, for sure. So if you don't mind me asking, what is your sexual orientation, and is it the same as you were taught as a child, or different?
So I identify as bi, and I wasn't really taught who to like when I was younger.
Okay.
It was just kind of, my parents were very open and
That's
very
awesome.
accepting,
Yeah.
and I've been very fortunate for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so they were just like, love whoever you love, or be whoever you want to be.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I guess raised around like media and things like that. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't taught to be bi or taught
Yeah,
to,
for sure.
like girls, but
it's what you see. Yeah.
But my parents have always taught me and my brothers to just love who we want to love, and
That's awesome.
So.
That's what you need, honestly. We need more of that. We
Yeah.
need more of those parents out there.
Yeah.
All right. And do you think gender roles might have shaped your personality? Do you think certain characteristics of your personality shined and others were diminished as you became older?
based on like gender roles growing up.
Yeah, how this refers to like how females are typically expected to be quiet, coy, tame, don't make any waves.
I feel like I'm the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I don't think it had that much of an influence on
Yeah.
me. But like I said, my parents were very supportive of just being who I wanted to be. So like I would work with my mom in the kitchen and, do all this sewing and stuff like that. But then I would work on cars, and my family owns a business. It's hydraulic equipment repair. So I'd go to the business and like get my hands dirty with oil. And it wasn't like, it was kind of like this balance that I didn't have one piece of me that was here or one piece of me that was there. It was just kind of together, I guess.
That's, I think, personally how it should be. So
Yeah.
That's really cool. And what is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
Quality of a woman that I value in myself. I think that, like, I'm confident in myself, and I'm confident in my body, and confident in, like, not being afraid to speak out about that. Yeah, I'm a woman and I'm here to stay.
Yes, girl. Yes. Preach. Okay. All right. And have you ever felt that you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? And can you tell me about that situation?
Yeah. So actually my first job I had was at a bowling alley in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going to this bowling alley since I was like 2 years old. Like my grandparents bowled there. My dad bowled there in like junior league. And then we just kind of have gone. And I got hired there and started working there, and then I was like the youngest person and one of the only females, and so it was kind of like when I wanted a promotion, I had to work twice as hard as all the males, and I had to, and it wasn't just like sexism, it was a lot of ageism as well, because I was the youngest person, but I was working twice as hard, and I was doing so much more work than ever, like all the other individuals, that it took me, I had to do that much more to be able to get to where I wanted to go with it. Which it was just like a first job, and it was like,
yeah,
whatever,
but still, yeah.
I felt the pressure because like the manager was not the greatest supporter. So
yeah, the whole old boys club still,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And then this is just a yes or no question. Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me about a time you felt unsafe being a woman, and did that experience shape the way you handle yourself in certain situations in the future?
So at my first job, we had one of our customers actually get attacked in the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
And so after that, like when I would close at night, I wasn't allowed to be there alone. And the staff member or the management was very much like, women are not allowed to walk out by themselves. And I was like, I know how to handle myself, but they would not allow me to walk out by myself. So I felt very diminished at that point.
Yeah.
But it did make me like more aware and have to like be like, okay, yeah, I am
alert.
a woman. And yeah, exactly. So I think that is
No, for sure. I mean, I've been doing these interviews and it's been pretty much across the board like that.
Yeah.
So, and so I don't know if you do plan on having children or if you do have children. Now that we talked a little bit more about gender roles, how do you like plan on teaching them about gender? Or if you have kids, what's one way you wish you kind of taught them about gender?
I don't have kids. I do plan on having them in the future. One day it'll happen. Maybe. But I don't know, my parents I feel like did a pretty good job of it, of like being accepting and just kind of being.
All right. So, sorry about that little interruption.
Okay.
So you were saying you wanted to have children one day, and how do you plan?
So I think, like I said, my parents were such a good like representation of how I probably want to like work with my kids and that, just letting them be themselves and kind of like not forcing them to wear the dress and not forcing them to, you know, play with the dolls or the trucks or whatever. Like if my son wants to wear a dress, let him wear a dress, and you know,
I'm not going to our store anymore.
like I'll be like, yeah, you know, males have these parts and females have these parts, but be who you want to be, and if that's not who you identify as, and then that's not who you are, and just kind of explaining that to them, and I guess society will kind of teach them. Like,
100%.
I want them to feel comfortable to be able to be who they want to be.
Yeah, I think it starts in the house. So obviously we can't change what's out there. It's just teaching them to handle it and to learn about it, you know, from early on. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. And yeah, thank you. All right. So I'm going to have you state your name, age, and ethnicity.
My name's Lila. I'm 27 years old, and I am Afghani.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to give you some definitions before we start about gender. So gender is the state of being, male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. And today we'll also be talking about gender roles as well. And according to PlannedParenthood.com, gender roles in society means how we are expected to act, speak, dress, and groom, and conduct ourselves based upon our assigned sex. And between every society and ethnic group and culture, there are different gender roles and expectations. So the four basic kinds of gender stereotypes are personality traits, domestic behaviors, occupations, and also physical appearance. So now that you know a little bit more background, I'm going to get started. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so how old were you when you knew you were a girl?
I don't know. I would say maybe 5-6 years old.
Mm-hmm. And so according to the definition of gender being more culturally based, how did you learn what gender you were? Like, how did you learn you were a girl?
I guess I could say, like, as I was being raised by women. We have a very traditional type of household where the mom was the homemaker and the dad was, you know, off bringing home the bacon, so to speak. And you know, I was always raised by my mom and my grandmother, and I guess with that came me defining myself more as a woman.
Mm-hmm. And what are some experiences that you remember that were gender-based, so specifically that pertain to you being a girl?
I mean, in the traditional, I guess, Middle Eastern household, you kind of are raised to be taught how to do, like, what roles each person play, and you kind of mimic, I guess, what you do based on the people that raised you. So like I said, I was being raised by my mom and my grandmother, so they would teach me what their roles or what their ideology of a role of a woman was.
Do you remember one specific like experience that like stuck out to you, like maybe something that you learned?
I mean, just from being a little girl and being dressed by my mother, wearing dresses. I could say that's like the first thing, is that, you know, we're automatically from the day we're born put in these frilly, pretty pink dresses, and you know, sometimes even a little bit over exaggerated, but it really is to like show our femininity. So always, I would say dresses are like female garments was like the first real experience of me identifying myself as female.
All right. And how might have you challenged those ideals as you got older?
I could say the funny thing is that I was raised by women, but I only had my sister and my cousin, my girl cousin, but I grew up with many more boy cousins. So like I was pretty active as a kid, and I kind of like challenging gender binaries by dressing kind of tomboyish during the day and then choosing to wear, I guess, more feminine clothes at night. So I guess by challenging it, I just like to, I don't know, not necessarily be more androgynous, but I like to kind of be a little bit masculine as well as a little bit feminine at the same time.
All right. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your sexual orientation, and is it the same or different as you were taught as a child?
My sexual orientation is straight, or heterosexual.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it is the same as I was taught while growing up. And as I've gotten older, I'm sure questions arise whether I am heterosexual or not, but I'm 100% certain that I am.
Okay. And how did you learn who you were attracted to?
I would say that was all natural, There was never this like push by anyone or by any force for me to be attracted to any type of person. But as I was coming of age, I could find myself being gravitated towards other males. And I just, either would try to pursue it or see where that kind of went.
Yeah. How do you think gender roles might have shaped your personality? Do you think certain characteristics of your personality shined and other were diminished as you became older?
I would say, yeah. I would say, we find out that as we are women that we have to kind of be more self-aware. We have to also be more, I don't know if the word is necessarily submissive, but there is that kind of stigma where women feel as though they have to, in a world where men typically are perceived as dominating. So unfortunately, as like being a female in this world, I do see that there are, I guess, limitations as I've grown older of like my personal growth, my growth in my career, even just my outspokenness in general. I intend to be a very outspoken person, and I know that when opinions are expressed to, let's say the other gender, there's that power dynamic or that power struggle that I seem to have more and more with as I grow older, or I'm at least able to see.
Yeah. What is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
I value my empathy. I love my emotional connection, the emotional connection I can create with other people and the emotional connection I can maintain with other people. I can't necessarily say that that's me being, more feminine or it's me being a female, but more rather that's more of a personality trait. But I can say me being a female and being around females as I was being raised has taught me to be more compassionate.
Nice. And then have you ever felt you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? Please tell me more about that experience.
You didn't tell me you got
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sorry, we're gonna have to repeat the question. We're outside right now. Okay. Have you ever felt you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? And can you tell me more about that experience?
Yeah. In previous jobs of mine, I find myself having a better understanding and a better skill set than a male, but because of my opinions and wanting to bring forward, I guess, areas of opportunity and that outspokenness that's kind of attached to me as a person, I've seen that they don't like that. Higher management considers that as complaining rather than just trying to be constructive, whereas if the same opinions were given and have been given by a male, it's considered serious, or at least
has more like value
behind it, and is able to, like, I don't know, just the message seems to be taken across a whole different way, and it is more constructive rather than just complaining. So
yes. Oh, that's very true for a lot of us. And so this is just a yes or no question. Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
yes.
Okay. And then can you tell me about a time you felt unsafe being a woman, and did that experience shape the way you handle yourself in certain situations?
Yes, when I was younger, actually, I was having this conversation with some friends because, you know, now that it's so aware and there's so many, I guess, stories of sexual harassment coming up, it's really becoming such a main area of focus right now. When I was younger, it was me and my cousin, and we would walk home together every Wednesday. And every Wednesday there was this truck of men who were working around the area. It was a red truck, and couldn't identify much, but they would always catch us at a certain point and follow us to a certain point walking home.
Wow.
And I would always tell my mom, and unfortunately my parents were working, so the only way to get home was to walk. And we would try and, like, stay back at school for an extra 20 minutes. But, you know, they were always in that area around that specific time of between 3 and 5 coming home. And if they were identified, we'd kind of be followed by them, and, you know, noises would be made, you know, catcalling, and we were kids, you know, so we didn't understand all that, but we just knew that we felt uncomfortable for sure. And, you know, we would try our best to be as strategic as possible, especially during a time where we didn't have cell phones growing up. There wasn't that luxury, and we just, you know, would either, like, stop, or we would try to find a back way to go home. And you know, it was just really uncomfortable having to maneuver around something that was totally not within our control. So yeah, that's just one of, I'm sure, many.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. And then, so my last question is, now that you know a little bit more about gender and gender roles, if you do plan on having children one day, what are some ways you maybe might think about teaching your children about gender?
You know, if I were to have children one day, I just feel like I would just work very hard on just loving them unconditionally. Growing up in a conservative household, expectations were brought up with us as far as when we were being raised, and there was always some sort of bracket, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to always throughout their whole lives trying to fit in one bracket or another. So I would just be more fluid in the sense that I'm accepting of everything or anything that my child wants to pursue or believe in and value, and if it's different than the ideologies that I grew up with, that to be more understanding and to keep that open relationship, because I've learned as I've grown up that just because I'm older or have a higher age than someone else, another human being, doesn't necessarily mean that they can't teach me something new. So just to be open and willing to learn.
Oh, that's very sweet. All right, well, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it, and yeah, thank you.
No problem.
All right, can I have you please state your name, age, and ethnicity?
Mickey, 66. What is it?
Ethnicity, what background are you? Where are you from?
Israel.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over some definitions with you according to gender. So like I told you earlier, gender is defined as the state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. Okay. And then also I want to tell you a little bit about gender roles. So gender roles, it means in society we're expected to act, speak, dress, or groom ourselves based on our assigned sex. So, you know, as a girl, you're supposed to look this way. As a guy, you're supposed to look this way. And in every society, every culture, it's different, you know. So that's why I wanted to look at people from different ethnicities to see if there's any similarities. So the 4 main types of gender stereotypes are personality traits, so the way you act, the type of personality you have, domestic behaviors, occupations, what type of occupations women and men both kind of have or are expected to have, and your physical appearance. Okay? So now, knowing all of that, I'm going to get into the questions, okay? Don't be scared. Okay, so how old were you when you knew you were a girl?
From day on.
From day on, okay. So, like I told you, so according to the definition of gender, how did you learn you were a girl? And how did you know this?
The dress.
The dress?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How to dress, not to dress pants, only skirt. And
All right.
long hair.
Long hair. Did
With
you have
pony-
long hair?
Yeah, ponytail.
Ponytail, yeah. Did you all right, so let's see. Did you play with any like certain dolls? I remember you were saying
No, in my generation we don't have like a Barbie.
No
We
Barbie?
play whatever we have.
okay. So, what are some experiences you remember growing up that were gender based? So, what experiences do you remember growing up that just you being a girl versus maybe your brothers or other family members had to deal with? What were some of your expectations?
My expectation or my family expectation?
Your families.
To help my mother with the work at home. That's it.
Did you have to help cooking, cleaning?
Cleaning.
Did you have to take care of any other like? No, just helping around the house mainly. Okay. So, as you grew up, how did you challenge some of those roles? Did you stay with the mainstream, having that long hair, wearing a skirt, or how did you challenge that?
No, I didn't want to wear any skirt.
You didn't want to wear a skirt?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
And I still believe that I'm a very nice female.
Yes, exactly. I think the same way. I don't think you have to dress or look a certain way to be considered a feminine.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, who was your role model or idol when you were growing up? Who did you model your behavior after?
Nobody.
Nobody? You didn't learn from like maybe your family or anyone in the media? You just learned from your own?
Yeah.
You learned on your own. You figured it out, right?
Life teach me.
Life teaches you. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So, what was the first time you felt the pressure of being a girl or a woman? Like either being a mother or the perfect daughter.
I was not in position like to feel pressure. This is life.
You didn't ever feel pressure, or did you just feel like you had to go through
That's it. I am a girl and I need to do stuff and it's fit me and I like it and I done this. That's it.
You didn't ever feel like any of it was overwhelming, maybe sometimes having to take on so much?
No, I done whatever I want. I done in my life what I want and to make me happy. When I'm happy, it's good. When I raise my kid, I want them to be happy, then I am happy.
That's good.
I'm not selfish person.
All right, so what is your sexual orientation? Do you know what that is?
No.
It's who are you attracted to? Male or female? Do you like men or women? Men, right?
Men.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so
I swear to God, you need to stop at what I got to
no,
say.
stop, Mickey. It's fine. You're fine.
Swear to
Okay,
God, your
and
generation's
wait,
too
is
up.
this how you were taught? Like,
People put for your generation stupid stuff in the mind. What is the question?
no. So, were you taught this that you were supposed to like men? Like it was just the normal.
Nobody told me you need to like men.
You just saw it.
That's what I feel. I
Yeah.
like men.
Yes. Okay, but you don't think that like seeing maybe media or your parents that shaped your idea of it?
No.
Yeah.
I swear to God, your generation.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. Okay, so how do you think gender roles shaped your personality? Do you feel like any like personality traits, like being maybe quiet or anything?
Life
Just taught you.
Life teach you.
Did you ever feel like you had to sit back and not say what you wanted to say?
A lot.
Yeah, kind of bite your tongue.
A lot.
Did you think it would be more, it'd be more beneficial just to not say what you were thinking?
It's
Respect. Yeah, that's definitely good. What is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
I think everything I like what I'm doing.
What's one like personality trait or something that you value about yourself? Like the fact that you're a woman and you do so much.
That I wake up in the morning and I like myself.
That you like yourself. That's really good because honestly, 99% of women have a really hard time doing that.
I'm proud whatever I'm doing. I'm honest with myself.
Yeah.
This is the goal of my life to be.
That's
honest
good.
with myself, yeah.
You definitely want to always be honest. And then, so this is just, okay, so have you ever felt you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities of a man?
No.
Yeah,
Whatever I've done in my life, appreciate people who I work in the hospital.
You don't think
15
you've
years.
had to maybe try to...
No.
Really?
Not to put like opens, no.
Not that, I mean, put more effort or work into what
in
you're
my job,
doing.
no. in my job.
Not in your job, in other
No.
industries?
No.
Nice. Okay, that's good to know. All right, and then this is just a yes or no question. Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
No.
No?
No.
Never? That's really good because a lot of women
No.
have experienced that.
It depends who you bring to your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're surprised, but it depends you are around.
That's true, yeah. Who you surround yourself is sometimes.
Yeah, it can happen. Surprise, it's gonna. But you need to. You need your common sense in life.
Mm-hmm.
Your judgment, not people judgment. Your judgment for your life.
All right. Is there ever a time you ever felt unsafe being a woman?
Yeah.
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 Like maybe can you tell me a little bit more about the situation?
Yeah. Like a few months ago, I worked with my son, and some guy was drunk. It's the first time in my life. No, it's happened also before. But this situation, he was drunk or something, or on drugs, whatever. He jumped and he behaved, and it scared me also.
Yeah.
My son also, yeah.
And it's scary sometimes. As a woman, you don't know if you have that power to fight back.
No, I don't want to know about this. I
Yeah.
don't want to fight. I don't want to be around people like this.
Yeah, no, yeah. I
That's
don't
it.
think anyone
I
does.
don't like this behave, so it's make me in position that I'm scared. I don't want to walk today in my neighborhood. It's the best neighborhood, safe. I don't know if somebody else can behave like this.
Exactly, yeah. So did it ever change the way you handle certain situations like that? If you were in a certain situation?
I'm not going to put myself
Just don't even go around it. Yeah.
This is what happened now. I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the final question, so I know you already have children. Is there anything you would change about teaching them about gender?
I never give to my kids the feeling if they make decision to be lesbian or gays that I got to close the door for them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they choose in life, they make them happy to wake up in the morning, to go to sleep. I got to be with them. The only thing that I don't go to be with my kids if they take drugs or they drive with alcohol. The rest, whatever gender, whatever they professional, they go to marry against not the same religion. I don't care. Whatever make them happy.
Well, that's really good to know. A lot of people sometimes aren't so open-minded like that.
No. I'm very open. Like
That's
my
good.
son.
Whoever, yeah.
Yeah.
Love is love, right?
Whatever this is his judge. I give my kids the foundation. They need to know what to do with this.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for your time, and I really appreciate
I
it.
think with the question and now you done the interview, you did.
Hi, I'm going to have you state your name, age, and ethnicity, please.
Okay, my name is Mariam. I'm from Iran and I'm 33 years old.
All right. Thank you so much, Miriam, for taking the time to do this interview with me. So, first off, I'm going to give you some background information. This interview is going to be about gender roles, so I'm going to just give you a little bit of background about that. So, gender, according to the dictionary, is the state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. Also, I wanted to go over what gender roles means. So according to PlannedParenthood.com, gender roles in society means that the way we're expected to act, speak, dress, and groom and conduct ourselves based upon our assigned sex. In every society, ethnic group, and culture, they have different gender roles and expectations. The four basic kinds of gender stereotypes are personality traits, domestic behaviors, occupations, and physical appearance. All right, so now that I have some background, I'm going to get into the questions. So, all right. So the first question is, how old were you when you knew you were a girl?
I think 4. Since when I was 4, I just remember that I had dresses that were designed for girls, and then
Yeah, so that actually leads into my next question. So how did you learn what gender you were? So how did you learn when you were a girl?
well, actually, in a society that I was born and raised, we only had just female and male, so it was very the stereotypes and so for everything, so I didn't have any options to choose and select, so everything was set up for me through my family, and I noticed that I'm a girl then.
Yeah, it was just a very traditional kind of background. Yes. All right. So what are some experiences you remember growing up that were gender based, so that these experiences that particularly pertain to you being a girl?
Okay, so as being a girl, when I grew up and I went to law school, but in my country, women could not be judges at all because of their gender. So I couldn't be a judge, so I ended up to become an attorney there.
Oh, wow.
But then for women, it was impossible to practice judiciary system in judiciary system. So it's only for men, not for women at all.
Wow. So that's one that really sticks out, that you were like, wow, I'm different than someone else. All right. And so you were speaking on, wearing dresses and things of that nature when you were growing up. How might you have challenged some of those ideals as you got older?
Well, I never put up many makeup anymore.
Yeah.
And then I never wear dresses, no high heels anymore.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're uncomfortable.
Yeah, they are uncomfortable. And so I start challenging all those stereotypes that the society just fed me.
Yeah. And who was your role model or idol growing up? Who did you base your behavior off of?
Many people. I don't know. It's very difficult to answer this question because I didn't have one role model. So many people, but one of my professor in Iran was my role model.
Okay. And what was the first time you felt the pressure of being a girl or a woman? And can you tell me more about that experience?
Okay, in my country, being a woman, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Because there are so many. Everything is for men. Everything is set up for men. So the right to get divorced, the right to have custody of children, all for men, not for women.
Yeah.
So wearing scarf, wearing hijab for women. So from that time, I remember that everything was.
That was really stuck out to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind me asking, what is your sexual orientation, and is it different or the same as what you were taught as a child?
No, it's the same, and I'm a heterosexual person.
All right. And how did you learn who you should be attracted to? Quote unquote should.
I don't know. It's just I found some men attractive. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's natural, yeah, for sure, for some people, and then some people think media and other influences. So.
Yeah, it's correct too. I think. Because I think that everything that we live in our life is just come from media, so you cannot
100%.
say
Yeah, you see the fairy tale kind of
whatever
thing. Yeah, for sure. And then, so how do you think gender roles might have shaped your personality? Do you think certain characteristics of your personality shined and others were diminished as you became older? Like, typically this refers to the females maybe having to be, quiet and tame, and,
No, it's not for me.
It's
not
That's nice. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's good to speak out when you want to. And then, what is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
The quality to be strong.
Nice.
Yeah.
And have you ever felt that you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? And can you tell me more about that experience?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. It happens every day, yeah.
Can you tell me about one particular experience?
Well, here in America, I cannot say about that because I don't have enough experiences. But in my country, it's not enough to be an attorney and practice law. You have to prove other things constantly.
Yeah.
That you are, honest person, and then you are capable, you are knowledgeable, everything. So it's not for men to prove that, but it's all for women to prove that.
Yeah, 100%. And then this is just a yes or no question. Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
Yes.
All right. And can you tell me about a time you might have felt unsafe being a woman, and did that experience shape the way you handle yourself in certain situations?
Yeah, many times it happened.
Can you tell me just one experience? So you just felt unsafe. You don't have to go into super detail.
Well, I don't feel safe to go out here at nights because people are so weird.
That's true. Yeah, you definitely have to be really self-aware. So now that we talked a little bit more about gender and gender roles, I don't know if you have children or if you don't, but if you are planning to have children, how do you plan on teaching them about gender? And if you do have children, what is one thing you might wish you could have taught them about gender?
Okay, I don't have children, and I don't have any plan to have any children.
Yes, okay, so well then that question doesn't pertain to you.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me your time and doing this interview with me, and I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Please state your name, age, and ethnicity.
My name's Neblin, and I'm 27 years old. My ethnicity is I'm Nigerian, Panamanian, Jamaican, and I'm U.S. born and raised.
All right, thank you. So I'm just going to give you a little background information about gender. So gender is the state of being male or female, which is typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. And for this specific interview, I'm actually looking at different gender roles. So according to PlannedParenthood.com, gender roles in society means how we're expected to act, speak, groom ourselves or dress, and conduct ourselves based upon our assigned sex. So for example, girls will typically wear a dress or act feminine, and men are typically expected to be strong, aggressive, and bold. And then in every society, ethnic group, and culture, they have different roles. The four basic kind of gender stereotypes are personality traits, domestic behaviors, occupations, and physical appearance. All right. So now knowing a little bit more background on that, so I want you to how old were you when you knew you were a girl?
I think as young as I can remember, like before age 5.
And so according to that definition of gender I gave to you, that it's more social, how did you learn what gender you were, and how did you basically know you were a girl?
I don't exactly remember how, but I knew that I was like, I was kind of dressed different, and I had a brother who was different than me, and we were also like, I don't know if I actually processed this, but we were referred to as he and she, so maybe that was part of it too. But there was just like maybe about like those differences. Girly, pink.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so actually that goes into my next question. So what are some experiences you remember growing up that were gender-based, so that particularly pertain to being a girl?
Well, I remember when I was also a kid, I would hang out and kind of tag along with my older brother, and they were like my older brother and his guy friends, and they always did like rough stuff, like they would go outside and make tents and like, you know, just make forts and do a bunch of boy stuff. And I kind of like, I don't know, I was just like the different one in there, and like they were always kind of like a little bit rougher than me, and I was like, I don't know, I was like the little one. And we also played with like different toys. That was a big thing. I loved Barbie dolls and dolls in general, and you know, he liked to kill insects and do scientific experiments on that. And yeah, there was a lot of stuff. I mean, especially like as a teenager.
Yeah, so that leads actually into my next one was how might have you challenged those ideals as you got older? Or if you did.
Yeah, I think how have I challenged it as I got older, like as a teenager or just in general?
I mean, if you could like pick out a time where you're like started really realizing like, oh, I don't have to maybe act this way.
Yeah, I remember when I was like 13, 14, I started dressing kind of like a guy sometimes. Like I would go in my brother's closet and pick out his old clothes, and I would dress kind of like a guy. I was also like starting to discover that I was bi, so I was like, can this go on the recording?
It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I started dressing like more masculine sometimes, and that kind of like I would flow back and forth. I'm actually about to get back into it like a little bit here and there, but that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I guess like that's the one thing that I clearly
really sticks
remember.
out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who was your role model or idol growing up? Someone that stuck out to you. I don't know. That you might have like modeled your behaviors after.
I modeled a lot of my behaviors after people, like women I saw on television, and
I think a lot of us do. I think that's a main source.
Disney Channel. I mean, you want to talk about like feminine ideals, like the beauty standard and like wanting straight hair. That was like a lot of all Disney and Nickelodeon.
Oh, yeah.
And then, celebrities, singers and stuff. Sierra.
Oh, nice.
And all that.
That's good. So, so I'm going to ask you, what was the first time you felt the pressure of being a girl or a woman? And can you tell me more about that experience?
The pressure of being a girl?
Yeah.
Oh, when I went to Nigeria, there was a lot of pressure. I went to boarding school in Nigeria when I was 15, and my father is very patriarchal.
Oh, wow.
And he's like from the village, and like Nigeria is interesting because it's a mix of like old like colonial values and also like African. So it's just like super like strict. And so when I went there, like women over there, like all of the girls wear high heels or like low heels, whatever, sandal heels. That's a thing. Like if you're a girl and you wear sneakers,
it's expected
like I
of
did,
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's expected, and you don't have to. But like I wore sneakers, and I like sometimes could wear like boots or something, like combat boots, and like sneakers are considered like childish, and like so I changed the way that I dress. Like my style changed to like be more like high class, like femme, like high femme. And my dad also really wanted me to learn how to cook and like get in the kitchen, and like, you know, he's like, you're a girl, you should learn how to cook. Like you should, I mean, I knew how to cook, he wanted me to learn how to cook Nigerian dishes. So he wanted me to do that, and I was like really rebellious. And there were other things that he would just be like, you're a lady, you should do this, like you should cook, you should clean. And
you feel like a lot of it always just went back to the fact that you're a woman. Well, that like dictates the way you should be.
It was in those particular instances that was made very clear of like, you're a girl. Like he would say, you're a lady, you're a girl, you should do this. Yeah. It wasn't anything.
It wasn't like a question.
No,
yeah.
It was just hello.
Yeah.
Why don't you? He would. I remember when he said, You're a girl. Like, why don't you smile more? Like,
yes.
I was like really kind of just like pissed off. Like I was forced to go to school there, and I was dealing with issues, and like, you should smile.
Yes, right. We always have to be happy, right? We can't be mad or sad or anything of those things.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a lot. So, the next thing I want to get into is actually, so what was your sexual orientation, or what is your sexual orientation, and is it the same or different from what you were taught as a child?
I would say that I'm fluid. I have been with women. I'm attracted to women, but I would like to be with a man next.
Yeah, it kind of just changes.
Yeah, it's very, very fluid. But I have identified as a lesbian before. I've come out as a lesbian before. At like different points in like my adolescence. and I like, I've known that since I was like a preteen.
So you've known that, but it was different than like what your parents were expected you to be, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I came out as bi to my mom and brother. My brother was always cool. My mom thought it was a phase. My dad, I came out as a lesbian like years later, and he was like, he wasn't really okay with it at all, but it was not as bad because I was a girl, number one, and number two, he was also like, are you gonna get the dick surgery?
Oh my god.
Because my cousins...
He thought you meant like transgender.
Yeah, no, he didn't think I meant that, but he doesn't
know like enough about it.
He thinks like my cousin is transgender.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a...
Wow, that's really funny. Yeah.
He's like, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. He's like, oh, I'm so...
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny.
That is funny. All right, so how did you learn who you should, quote unquote, be attracted to?
I think that I kind of like, I mean, I've always been introduced to like hetero relationships since I was a child. I recall being quite homophobic when I was very young, like 5 years old. I would make fun of this like little gay kid who lived down the street. And I would always know because I'm from a very queer town.
Oh, really?
Like, it's
I didn't even
very,
know.
very queer, and especially lesbians. And
wow.
Yeah, I always knew when
like
lesbians
what it was?
were lesbians because I would look up and they would be more masculine. And then I would like hold my breath.
Yeah.
Like I would hold my breath because I thought that I thought I would catch their gayness.
Oh my god, like it was such a bad thing.
Yeah, it was homophobic, and like I think I probably got that from like, you know, just little things from the way my parents, like, they were not super homophobic because my brother's nanny was a live-in nanny, and she was an immigrant from the Philippines, and she's a lesbian.
Oh, hi.
But she was very submissive. Okay. And so it worked. Yeah. Actually, she's really successful now. She has
yay, go nanny.
Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, just picking stuff up.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you next. So how do you think gender roles might have shaped your personality? Do you think certain characteristics of your personality shined and others were diminished as you became older? Like, this is referring to how women are typically expected to be quiet and to, you know, sometimes not speak up about things, to not make waves or cause, you know, any trouble, you know. Do you think, like, any of your personality traits might have changed as you got older because of this?
Yeah, I think that I was... I don't know if I ever completely, because I was always super, super rebellious ever since I was like a teenager. Yeah. So I never completely like, you know, drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah. And, you know, I never did that, but I think that there were some things that I didn't understand about myself that I was just naturally like conditioned into, and I just didn't know. So it's not like I was like trying to be, you know, but like
it just that's all you knew, and you didn't understand why you were like that. It's just the way that it became yourself.
Yeah, I think especially with like sexuality, like I learned everything about sex and the female experience of sex from magazines
Yeah.
and the internet, and when I started having sex with men, it was really fucked up, and like the gender roles there that I was taught, like it was like I was just like a thing, you know? So I think something like that, it's not like I was trying to like, but I was, I guess, like I learned that like I was there to please them.
A man, yeah.
Yeah.
Most women, that's all we do now. It's really sad. We're actually studying about this right now, about the pornification of women, and we were just going over that in class. So it's really funny you brought that up.
Yeah.
But all right. So what is a quality you value as a what is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
I'm very confident and authentic.
Nice. I think you are too.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right. Have you ever felt like you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? And can you tell me more about that experience?
I think that I because I don't really like recall ever like placing myself in a situation where I was like competing with men for their opportunities. I mean, I've definitely like been in the male dominated environments, but I like, even like as a filmmaker, like my film is on Black women in the civil rights movement, and I still never really, it's not like I came to Hollywood and started out as a production assistant and said, I want to work my way up to being a director in a field full of white men. Like, it wasn't like that. It was like, I just became a director with like no film experience, and I was like, I'm going to make this film. And like, I think that there are like, you know, certain obstacles, but I think that's just because you kind of like, your experience is different. You kind of like have to carve out your own path, and you can't always take like the standard way. But I don't really, because I don't like compete with men in that way.
You kind of just made your own stance. You kind of did it on your own, which is really an amazing thing and should be appreciated and celebrated. No, definitely. That's honestly, a lot of the things we like look over in class is how a lot of women feel the need, like we need to either get a degree to maybe be considered equivalent to someone in a field, in a corporate field. Typically, men are, usually considered more stable, women more emotional, things like that. So that's where that question came from. And this one's just a yes or no. Have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
Yeah, totally.
All right. And can you tell me about a time you felt unsafe being a woman, and did that experience shape the way you handle yourself in certain situations?
Oh gosh, there have been so many.
Right, I know.
I used to feel like very unsafe being a woman, like years ago. I've been sexually assaulted and raped numerous times. It took me a while to understand my experiences as such, but that's like led me into feminism, which led me into understanding what I experience with harassment and stuff. So I think that when I came out of that, part of like one of the first stages of like my healing process was like, oh, I'm beginning to wake up and understand like what's going on, and how like this world is like patriarchal, and like then I started to feel like, unsafe in certain situations, or like I started like fighting back against street harassment, and like,
it's awesome.
Yeah, but now I feel like I think becoming more spiritual has helped me feel like safe and protected by the universe, and like safe inside. So even though like sometimes I'll be like, what's this man gonna do in the dark? I'm like, nothing is gonna happen to me because I know that I'm meant to be alive tomorrow. You know, and I know I'm not. No one can hurt me.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. So, so now that we talked a little bit more about gender and gender roles, and for women, so if you do plan on having children one day, how do you think you would teach them about gender?
I would just try to like, you know, give them, you know, free range over like stuff like what they want to wear and like pick out their own clothes and stuff. And yeah, I guess, you know, that stuff.
I mean, that's a huge step in like trying to help break down kind of the social barriers and roles we put on certain genders.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Another big one too we talk about in class is trying to make more gender neutral language. Like you don't even think about when you're using mailman or fireman, or even we were saying, my teacher pointed out a best one. It's like you don't ever say career man, but it's a career woman. Like it's like such a big thing. Like it's so oppositional, you know. Like you don't ever be like, oh, look at that career man going down the street over there. Like, but you're like, oh, that's a career woman.
Right.
And it's just you don't realize those things until it's pointed out to you. So
right.
I know when I eventually, if I one day want to have children, I'm going to try my very best to try not to use that language.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to have babies.
Yeah. I know you're a cat mama, so it's okay. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. It's been amazing talking to you, and I really, really appreciate your time. All right. Yay.
Call is now being recorded.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Okay. So can I please have you state your name, age, and ethnicity?
Hi, I'm Nayeli Nivas. I'm 25 years old, and I'm of Hispanic heritage.
All right, Nayeli, thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview with me. So I'm going to give you some definitions about gender and gender roles before I start the interview. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of gender is the state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. And then also I'm going to talk to you a little bit about gender roles. So according to PlannedParenthood.com, gender roles in society means how we're expected to act, speak, dress, and groom, and conduct ourselves based upon our assigned sex. For every different culture, there's typically different roles. And the four basic kind of gender stereotypes is personality traits, the way you act, domestic behaviors, kind of like how you're supposed to handle yourself in your home, occupations, and then also physical appearance. All right. So now that I've given you a little bit of background, how old were you when you knew you were a girl? Probably about three. So basically since you can remember?
Yes.
Okay. So according to the definition of gender being more socially based rather than, biologically, so how did you learn what gender you were, and so how did you basically know that you were a girl versus a boy?
I suppose I knew that I was a girl because of the toys that were given to me and the way that I was dressed.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's very typical for most girls. So what are some experiences you remember growing up that were gender-based? So some experience that particularly pertain to you being a girl.
I know that in school they would separate us when I was in kindergarten or like preschool. So I remember that distinctly because I thought that was odd that I didn't get to hang out with my friend who was a guy during that time period. We had gym classes that were different.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the first time I noticed.
So that's when you noticed. Do you remember ever like having an experience of growing up that you might have had differently than maybe a boy growing up?
Well, wait, like the first one that I can remember, or just in general?
No, general, like a particular thing that stuck out to you, like maybe putting on makeup or wanting to do your hair, things like that.
I'm sure there are a lot. I just can't remember right now. I know sometimes, a lot of the times when I'm at work, literally someone can say the exact same thing I'm saying, but just because they're a man, people tend to like look at them. And I literally had just said something, but then he says it again, but they actually understand it or like listen to whatever he's saying. It's so weird.
That's how it is a lot of the time. So as you were getting older, do you think you might have challenged any gender roles that might have been placed on you as a child?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
As you grew older, do you think you might have challenged any gender roles like that were placed on you as a child? Like how typically females are expected to be pretty feminine, quiet.
And quiet, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Or like wear
100%.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, growing up, I, especially being of, like growing up Mexican, it's very traditional in our household, or like just in Mexican culture in general, is being like the caretaker and taking care of like everyone, washing the dishes, cooking, all of that stuff. But that never interested me at all. So like I remember I would go visit my grandpa and he would ask me if I knew how to make tortillas from scratch yet. And I'm like, no, I have better things to worry about than making freaking tortillas from scratch. So yeah.
That's funny.
That's just one thing that stuck out to me.
Who was your role model or idol growing up? Like, who was someone you modeled your behavior after?
No one, to be honest, myself. I've always been like a really big advocate, and it's probably because my parents of just doing whatever you want to do. It wasn't always like a good thing, obviously, because I challenged society a lot and I got in trouble in school and talking back to like people that I was supposed to respect. But I always just did what I wanted. I never really looked up to anybody, no offense.
All right. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your sexual orientation, and is it the same or different as you were taught as a child?
I would consider myself bisexual, and I think I knew that I was bi when I was like probably like 11. My first kiss was actually a girl, and I found myself like it wasn't that bad. So I don't know. I didn't know that I was like a normal, that was, I guess, somewhat acceptable. I didn't even know what being bi was. I just knew that I liked it.
Yeah. And let's see. How did you learn who you should quote unquote be attracted to?
This one's really funny because growing up, I grew up in the East Coast with a lot of white people around me, and I always thought that I liked white guys, like Abercrombie-looking dudes. And then, like, the older I got, the more I realized that I did not like that at all. But it was like society, like, putting it upon me that I was supposed to like a guy like that. Yeah, it's so weird now that I think about it, because, like, I'll bring all, like, guys home and stuff like that, and my parents are like, whoa, we thought that you like nothing, like not brown people. As weird and fucked up as that sounds. Yeah. And then I got over it, and then I just started liking whatever I like, and then I just
it's crazy a lot because environment and like the where you grow up can really influence those type of things.
For sure.
Another one. So, how do you think gender roles might have shaped your personality? Do you think certain characteristics of your personality shined and others were diminished as you became older? And this is kind of in reference to and how women are supposed to be quiet, and tame.
I know that being a woman, you can get away with things, and you can get things that you want as well by using your sexuality. So once I learned that, even in the workplace, I know it sounds kind of bad, but I will use it to my advantage to get my point across. Or like if I want someone to do something, like I can use like my femaleness to get what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of being quiet, yeah, I mean, like, sometimes, I mean, I don't know, I always try to speak my
Do you ever
mind,
feel
so
like
I don't
you
know.
don't maybe speak out when you might have like an idea or something? If you feel like you're in a more male
Yes, but it's
dominated
not because
field?
I'm a female. It was never because I was a female, it's just because I didn't feel like I was in the position of, the position to be able to present my idea, like, and have people make me credible. And it honestly, it was never about like gender. It was just about that I didn't feel comfortable saying it.
Yeah, definitely. So, what is a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
Wait, sorry, what? Can you
What
repeat
is
that?
a quality you value as a woman in yourself?
What is a quality of a woman in myself?
What is no, what is a quality that you value as a woman in yourself? Like, what is a quality that you possess that, you know, maybe might not a man or something possess that you value in yourself?
I would say emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's something that a lot of men lack, and having a really good sense of emotional intelligence makes me able to read people better, read a situation, and kind of like read between the lines when someone's speaking. And I think that's really, really valuable, especially in my field in marketing.
Yeah. And have you ever felt that you needed to work harder to receive the same opportunities as a man? And can you tell me more about that experience?
Yeah, 100%. Just like I said before, it's just like when you're speaking and literally you're saying the exact same idea as the man next to you, you have to speak literally 10 times louder, and you have to say it 10 more times for people to actually listen to you. It's annoying.
Yeah, it really is. And this is just a yes or no question, but have you ever experienced sexual harassment or violence?
Only one time. Oh, wait, this is a yes or no? Yes.
No, yeah. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me about a time you felt unsafe being a woman? And did that experience shape the way you handle yourself in certain situations?
Yes, there was this one guy going back. This is like the only time that I can actually like that stood out to me. There was this one time I was promoting downtown, and there was this guy, and he was just being friendly with me. I thought he probably thought I was attractive, which is fine. And then it hit midnight, and he literally grabbed and forced me to kiss him, and that's when I got like really freaked out. And I felt really unsafe at that moment. What makes you think just me being like friendly gives you any sort of like that you can go and grab me and kiss me? Like, what? Like, that's crazy.
Did that experience shape the way you might have handled yourself in like situations before and like situations after?
I guess not, but like I just realized that guys are trash, and if you're friendly with them, like even just like literally just being friendly, they'll take it the wrong way. And just knowing that.
I think more about like being more self-aware as a woman, because we constantly have to like be looking out for ourselves.
Exactly.
All right. And so now that we've talked a little bit more about gender and kind of some of the experiences that women face and the different gender roles, that are placed upon women, if you do plan on having children one day, how do you plan on teaching your children about gender?
I don't know, because I know. I mean, I'm thinking if I have a girl or a boy, well, obviously. I mean, like, I'm going to give them girl and boy toys. So now that you're asking me this question, I'm questioning if that's wrong. Like, I would give my daughter a doll. I would put her in cheer. And if I was a boy, I'd put him in football or soccer. And now I'm questioning if that's wrong. I'm not sure, to be honest. I can't really answer that question.
No, if it's wrong or right, but it definitely makes you think more about how from early on, we kind of set women down one path and men down another. And, I think maybe by being sometimes more gender neutral, we could sometimes maybe blur those lines a little bit more. Not saying that, oh, you're not a girl or you're not a boy or whatever, but just making it not so strict would be beneficial in, helping people know that it's okay to be both. You can be masculine and feminine, or, either qualities, and it's acceptable,
Yeah, I guess I'll just be really open with them. And if, they start I don't know, if my little boy starts crying, I'm going to make sure and let them know that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea. All right, so I just want to say thank you so much for giving me your time, and yeah, thank you. I'm going to try to hang this up now. I think this is it.